Have you ever asked yourself why smart people make bad decisions in crisis? It's a well-accepted fact that during an emergency, a disaster, or other types of stressful critical incidents, decision-making is difficult. The decisions made during highly stressful times are not only difficult to make even for the smartest of people, they are often wrong, sometimes catastrophic. But why? If we can identify the factors that contribute to poor decisions, we can dramatically improve the quality of decisions made in stressful circumstances. Welcome to the ICISF Quick Tips series. In this installment, we will learn why poor decision-making is so prevalent during stressful times, and why even highly intelligent people can fall prey to poor decision-making. Dr. George Everly Jr. has studied the physiology and the psychology of decision-making during stress.
During an emergency or a disaster, the brain is flooded with what is often an overwhelming amount of information. It needs to be acted upon quickly and efficiently. So, it employs what are called compensatory mechanisms to simplify the decision-making process. Unfortunately, while these mechanisms increase response time and efficiency, they often sacrifice overall effectiveness.
You seem to be saying that to avoid a form of paralysis by overanalysis and to aid in separating relevant from irrelevant information, the brain resorts to shortcuts. But these shortcuts sound as if they could be prone to error.
Exactly. The brain relies upon shortcuts to facilitate decision-making. These shortcuts act by simplifying, but potentially oversimplifying, the entire process.
It sounds like there's great value in becoming aware of these potentially error-prone shortcuts. So what are they, and what quick tips can you give us to avoid them?
There are 4 common shortcuts the brain takes to simplify decision-making, especially in highly stressful times. First, the brain shifts from a data analytic mode to a recognition-based mode of information processing. Recognition-based decision-making is very fast, it's efficient, it's intuitive. The problem is, intuitive decision-making blocks rational, thoughtful, analytic decision-making. So, unless you have trained specifically for the situation at hand, or unless you have seen a similar situation, recognition-based decision-making usually fails. The second error-prone shortcut the brain takes is called binary thinking. When confronted with ambiguous information or maybe an overwhelming amount of data, we tend to boil decisions down to the most simple, non-assumption-based elements, thereby creating a binary condition. A binary condition is all or none, yes or no. This is a dangerous form of what's sometimes called Occam's razor. Sadly, the world we live in is not binary, it's dimensional. Binary decision-making increases volatility. It causes us to ignore the subtle details that can be the difference between success and failure. The third error-prone simplification the brain uses is confirmative thinking. The brain does not like dissonance. It does not like contradiction. As a result, it searches for information that confirms the biases that we already hold and the decisions we've already made. It rejects anything that does not fit our predetermined narrative. It limits out-of-the-box thinking. This simplification makes compromise with others almost impossible. It hinders creativity. It foretells the demise of the organization or system within which it might become the norm. Lastly, the fourth and final mechanism the brain engages in is called main effect thinking. This refers to our tendency to make decisions thinking only of the primary and immediate outcome desired. It's a quick way of making a decision and then moving on. In doing so, though, it prohibits us from considering Merton's law of unintended consequences. What that is, very simply, is that every decision exerts not only its main effect, but it exerts an unintended consequence, an unintended ripple effect. Even the decision not to decide has an impact. History is replete with examples of problems made worse by unintended consequences of their intended solutions. And as for quick tips or remedies, well, the first thing you can do, and perhaps the most important, is anticipation of or rehearsal for challenges, adversities you're likely to face. This mobilizes the advantages of recognition-based intuitive information processing. And after all, that's what the brain wants to do, naturally. So rather than fight it, go with the flow. So the more we can anticipate, train, and rehearse for adversity, the better prepared we will be when our brain shifts from the rational decision-making to the recognition-based decision-making. Unfortunately, there are two problems with that approach. One is we can't anticipate every possible challenge. Second, we sometimes convince ourselves that we can anticipate every possible challenge. So, when we face one that we've not anticipated and things do not go well, we blame ourselves rather than understanding it's a failure in preparation. But beyond that, what else can we do? Well, take several deep breaths before decision making. Believe it or not, it really does help restore analytic thought. It may take 30, 60, maybe 120 seconds, but it's rapid. Second, when possible, delay making important decisions until less stressful moments. Next, avoid confirmatory biases by playing devil's advocate with yourself. Maybe recruiting someone else to play devil's advocate, or simply thinking of the impact of your decision if you're wrong. Lastly, counter main effect thinking by generating a list of potential unintended consequences.
It seems that the reason smart people make bad decisions under stress is that they allow the brain's natural inclinations for rapid but overly simplistic thinking to take charge. But following these simple guidelines may help take the stress out of crisis decision-making. Thank you for listening to this installment of the ICISF Quick Tips Podcast.